The massive crystal doors of the Galactic Council chamber burst open with a thunderous crash that echoed through the enormous hall. Ambassador Haiyan Wu rushed inside, his scaled green skin glistening with sweat and his eyes wide with panic. Behind him followed dozens of other representatives from across the galaxy, each one looking more terrified than the last. The emergency sirens had been wailing for 3 hours now, ever since the first reports came in from the Outer Rim worlds. The Valkyrie Empire had finally made their move, and it was bigger and more devastating than anyone had imagined. Their war fleet stretched across multiple star systems, like a plague of metal locusts consuming everything in their path. General Taman slammed his clawed fist onto the polished marble table so hard that cracks appeared in the ancient stone. His reptilian features were twisted into an expression of pure rage and desperation that made even the bravest council members step back in fear. "We are facing complete annihilation," he roared, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "The Valkyrie have deployed over 3,000 warships equipped with their new plasma cannon technology. Our combined defense fleets are being torn apart like paper dolls in a hurricane." Ambassador So Young from the Aquatic Hydros Federation rippled her translucent fins nervously as she spoke from her water-filled tank. Her voice bubbled with worry as she addressed the assembly. "How many civilian worlds have already fallen to their advance?" she asked, though she dreaded hearing the answer. The tactical display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing a three-dimensional map of the affected regions. Red dots marked the locations of Valkyrie fleets, while blue dots showed the retreating council forces. The red was spreading like spilled blood across the star map, consuming blue after blue. 57 colonies have gone silent," reported Commander Sung Ho, his normally steady voice shaking with emotion. "We estimate that over 50 billion innocent lives are now under Valkyrie occupation, or worse, the enemy is not taking prisoners. They are systematically destroying entire populations." A collective gasp went up from the assembled delegates. Many species represented in the chamber had family and friends on those lost worlds. The weight of so much death pressed down on everyone like a physical force. Senator Jin Wu from the Mining Guild world stood up slowly, his elderly frame trembling with exhaustion and grief. "My homeworld of Kepler 7 fell 6 hours ago," he announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "I received one final transmission from my grandson before the communications went dark. He said the sky was on fire and that strange ships were landing everywhere." The chamber fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the soft sobbing of delegates who had lost everything. Ambassador Haiyan Wu felt his heart break as he watched these proud representatives reduced to helpless grief by the Valkyrie onslaught. "What of our military response?" demanded General Taman, turning to face the defense commanders. "Surely our combined fleets can mount some kind of counterattack. We cannot simply stand by and watch entire civilizations burn." Admiral Dong Su of the Unity Defense Force shook his head grimly, his scarred face telling the story of countless battles. "The Valkyrie have been preparing for this war for decades," he explained, "their new plasma weapons cut through our strongest shields like they do not even exist. Our ships are outgunned, outmanned, and completely unprepared for this level of technological advancement." Tactical Officer Lieutenant Young Jin updated the display showing the current fleet positions. What remained of the council forces looked pathetically small compared to the massive Valkyrie armada that continued to spread across the galaxy. "Like a cancer we need allies," someone called out from the back of the chamber. "What about the Zephyrian Republic or the Crystal Consortium? Surely they will come to our aid in this dark hour." Ambassador So Young shook her head sadly, her aquatic features showing deep regret. "The Zephyrians are too far away, and their fleets would never arrive in time. The Crystal Consortium has already declared neutrality and sealed their borders. They will not risk their own worlds for ours." The desperate silence that followed was broken by a young delegate from the Outer Rim colonies, a female named Minyoung, whose voice carried the hope of the desperate. "What about the Terran Alliance?" she asked quietly. "The humans have been our trading partners for decades. Surely they would help us in our time of greatest need." The reaction to her suggestion was immediate and terrifying. Every delegate in the chamber turned to stare at her with expressions ranging from shock to absolute horror. Several representatives actually took steps backward, as if she had suggested summoning demons from the depths of Space Elder. Dong Haiyan, the ancient crystalline sage who had served on the council for over 2 centuries, slowly rose from his seat. His crystalline body, which normally glowed with a soft blue light, now pulsed with deep red warning colors that cast ominous shadows across the chamber walls. "You do not understand what you are suggesting, young one," he said, his voice like the grinding of massive stones. "The humans are indeed our allies, but calling upon their military forces is not a decision to be made lightly. They are not like us. They do not fight wars the way civilized species do." "But surely," Ambassador So Young interrupted, her fins rippling with confusion, "they would want to help save innocent lives. The humans have always been portrayed as a peaceful trading civilization. Why should we fear asking for their assistance?" Elder Dong Haiyan turned his ancient gaze upon her, and for a moment she felt as if she were staring into the depths of time itself. "Child, I was present during the Scourge Wars 50 years ago. I witnessed what happens when humanity decides to stop playing nice with their enemies. The Scourge were a plague upon the galaxy, consuming entire star systems and turning civilized worlds into hives of nightmare creatures." The elder paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "When the council finally asked the humans for help, they sent only 12 ships. 12 vessels against a Scourge armada that numbered in the tens of thousands. We thought they were insulting us with such a small force." "What happened?" asked General Taemin, though something in his voice suggested he already feared the answer. "The humans did not just defeat the Scourge," continued Elder Dong Haiyan, "they erased them from existence. The enemy fleet was not destroyed, it was unmade, reduced to its component atoms, and scattered across space. The Scourge homeworlds were not conquered, they were sterilized so completely that nothing will ever grow there again. When the surviving Scourge begged for mercy in 17 different languages, the humans kept firing until there was nothing left to surrender." The chamber had grown so quiet that the sound of breathing seemed loud. Ambassador Hyun-woo felt his blood turn cold as he imagined the kind of weapons that could accomplish such total destruction. "But that was 50 years ago, protested Commander Suho. "Surely their methods have become more civilized since then. Perhaps they have learned restraint." Elder Dong Haiyan crystalline form flashed bright red with alarm. "Restraint? You think they have learned restraint, child? The humans have been holding back for our sake. Every pirate raid they have stopped, every border dispute they have mediated, they have been using what they call training weapons. They have been fighting with one hand tied behind their backs because they know that their full military capability would terrify their allies as much as their enemies." The weight of this revelation settled over the chamber like a funeral shroud. The humans, the peaceful traders who sold them exotic goods and shared their art and culture, were apparently the most dangerous military force in known space. As if summoned by the very mention of their name, a soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The main holographic projector in the center of the chamber flickered to life, and suddenly Captain Minho of the Terran vessel Righteous Fury appeared before them. His human face was calm and pleasant, showing no sign of the deadly power that apparently lay hidden beneath that civilized exterior. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he said with a polite smile that somehow made Ambassador Hyun-woo feel even more terrified, "we have been monitoring your emergency broadcasts and are aware of the crisis you face. The Terran Alliance stands ready to provide whatever assistance you require, though I must warn you that our methods may seem somewhat excessive by your current standards." The casual way he delivered those words made every delegate in the chamber understand that they were about to witness something that would change their understanding of warfare forever. The humans were offering to help, and suddenly everyone realized that might be the most terrifying thing that could possibly happen. The 3 hours that followed Captain Minho's initial transmission felt like an eternity to the members of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Hyun-woo paced back and forth across the marble floor of the emergency chamber, his scaled feet clicking rhythmically as he tried to calm his racing thoughts. The other delegates sat in small groups, whispering among themselves about what the human response might be. General Taemin stood before the massive tactical display, watching the red dots of the Valkyrie fleet continue their relentless advance across the star map. Each passing minute brought reports of new worlds falling to the enemy. Each flash of red meant billions more innocent lives lost to the invaders' plasma cannons and orbital bombardments. Hydros Federation tanker where Ambassador So Young lived bubbled frantically as she swam in tight circles. Her aquatic mind struggled to process the implications of what Elder Dong Hyen had revealed about human military capabilities. Could a species that seemed so peaceful and civilized really possess weapons capable of erasing entire civilizations from existence, Commander? Sung Ho received another grim report from his communications officer. Sir, the defense fleet at the Altair system has been completely destroyed. The Valkyrie are now only 6 hours away from the core worlds. We are running out of time and options, Elder. Dong Hyen remained motionless in his crystalline meditation pose, but those with experience could see the deep red pulses of fear and anxiety running through his translucent body. The ancient being had witnessed the last time humanity had been forced to show its true military might, and the memory still haunted him after 50 years. Suddenly, the main communication array came to life with an incoming priority transmission from Earth. The holographic projector flickered and Admiral Jinnah appeared before the assembled council. Her human features were calm and professional, but something in her dark eyes spoke of barely contained power waiting to be unleashed. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. I am Admiral Jinnah, commanding officer of the Terran Alliance Deep Space Fleet. We have reviewed your request for military assistance against the Valkyrie. Empire Aggression Ambassador Hyun Woo felt his heart hammering against his chest as he waited for the human response. The fate of 50 billion innocent lives hung in the balance of whatever decision this human admiral had made. After careful consideration, Admiral Jinnah continued, the Terran Alliance has authorized the immediate deployment of Dreadnought Fleet Omega to assist in the defense of threatened civilian populations. Our estimated time of arrival at the conflict zone is 6 hours. All allied vessels are advised to maintain a minimum safe distance of 50,000 kilometers from human ships during combat operations. The chamber erupted in a mixture of relief and terror. Relief that the humans had agreed to help, terror at the implications of that 50,000-kilometer safety requirement. Ambassador So Young Fin's trembled as she asked the question everyone was thinking, why do we need to stay so far away from your ships? Admiral Jinnah's expression remained perfectly neutral as she explained. Our weapon systems generate significant collateral effects during discharge. The minimum safe distance ensures that allied vessels will not be accidentally damaged by our combat operations. We strongly recommend that all non-human ships withdraw to the designated safety perimeter before we engage the enemy. Elder Dong Hyen crystalline form flashed bright red with alarm as memories of the Scourge Wars came flooding back. 50,000 kilometers, he whispered, his ancient voice filled with dread. That is the blast radius of their main guns. They are not just warning us about stray shots, they are warning us about the shockwaves from their weapons' fire. Meanwhile, in the depths of space near Earth, Admiral Jinnah stood on the bridge of her flagship, the massive Dreadnought. Eternal wrath around her, the ship bustled with activity as the crew prepared for immediate departure to the war zone. The bridge itself was a testament to human engineering efficiency. Clean lines of metal and crystal housing the most advanced technology in known space navigation. Officer Young Soo called out from his station. Admiral, all ships in. The fleet report ready for quantum jump. Fleet composition confirmed: 12 dreadnoughts, 48 heavy cruisers, and 120 destroyers. All vessels are standing by for your orders. Admiral Jinnah nodded as she reviewed the tactical information streaming across her command. Displays the Valkyrie Empire had committed their entire war machine to this offensive. Their fleet composition showed over 3,000 ships of various classes, all equipped with their newest plasma weapon technology. It was an impressive force. By Galactic standards, Captain Yoon-ji appeared on the communication screen from her position aboard the Dreadnought Sacred Vengeance. Admiral, the crew is requesting clarification on rules of engagement. Do we follow standard peacekeeping protocols for this mission? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Standard peacekeeping protocols meant that human forces would limit their weapons to non-lethal settings. Whenever possible, they would attempt to disable enemy ships rather than destroy them. They would offer repeated chances for surrender. They would fight with the same restraint they showed when dealing with pirates and smugglers. Admiral Jinnah took a deep breath before delivering her response. Negative, Captain. The Valkyrie Empire has declared total war against civilian populations. They have systematically targeted non-combatant vessels and planetary settlements. Effective immediately, we are switching to unrestricted combat authorization. All weapon systems are cleared for maximum yield deployment. A collective shiver ran through every human ship in the fleet. Unrestricted combat authorization was a phrase that had not been spoken in 50 years. It meant that the Terran Alliance was removing all safety restrictions from their military forces. It meant that humanity was about to remind the galaxy why every species feared them. Lieutenant Commander Wu Jin, barely 25 years old, stared at his weapons control console. In a mixture of awe and terror, for his entire career he had trained on systems that were deliberately limited to prevent accidental destruction. The targeting computers he worked with daily were programmed to minimize collateral damage and preserve enemy lives whenever possible. But now, as he entered his authorization codes, the true interface of his weapon systems revealed itself for the first time. Destructive capabilities that could crack moons appeared on his screen's energy output levels that could boil oceans became available at the touch of a button. He realized that everything he thought he knew about human military power had been a carefully maintained illusion. Captain Minho, commanding the Dreadnought Righteous Fury, addressed his crew over the ship-wide communication system. All personnel, this is your captain. We are about to engage in unrestricted combat operations for the first time in 50 years. I want everyone to remember that we do not fight for glory or conquest. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The galaxy has forgotten what human compassion looks like when it is backed by absolute force. Today we remind them the quantum drives of the human fleet began to charge, creating ripples in space-time that could be detected from light years away. Each dreadnought was a masterpiece of military engineering. 5 kilometers of armored death, bristling with weapons that had been banned by 17 different galactic peace treaties. Admiral Jin stood at the center of her bridge, watching as the final preparations were completed around her. The tactical displays showed the Valkyrie fleet continuing its methodical destruction of innocent worlds. Each passing second meant more deaths, more families torn apart by the enemy onslaught. All ships, Admiral Jin's voice echoed through the human fleet. Remember that the eyes of the galaxy are upon us today. We carry the hopes and fears of 50 billion innocent souls who depend on our protection. The Valkyrie Empire believes that might makes right. They are about to learn what happens when they face beings who understand that true strength comes from protecting the weak. The quantum signatures appeared around each human vessel. As their faster-than-light drives reached full power in moments, they would cross the vast distances of space to engage an enemy that outnumbered them 250 to 1. But every human in the fleet knew that numbers meant nothing when you possessed weapons that could reshape reality itself. The final transmission from Admiral Jin reached every corner of human space as the fleet prepared to depart. For 50 years, we have been the guardians of galactic peace. We have used restraint and diplomacy to solve conflicts. We have limited our weapons and held back our true capabilities out of respect for our allies. Today, that changes. The Valkyrie Empire has chosen to wage war against innocence, and they will learn the price of that decision. The human dreadnought fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving behind only ripples in the fabric of reality as they raced toward a battle that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Kelio system had become a graveyard of broken dreams and shattered hopes. The once beautiful trading hub that connected dozens of peaceful worlds now witnessed the systematic destruction of everything the Galactic Council had worked to build. Over centuries, Valkyrie warships filled the space around the planets like a swarm of mechanical vultures, picking apart the last remnants of civilization. Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive battleship Dominion Supreme, and surveyed his conquest with satisfaction. 3,000 vessels under his command had cornered the final group of council ships, mostly civilian transports packed with refugees who had nowhere left to run. The enemy defensive fleet had been swept aside like dust before wind. Sub-Commander Vexlon approached his admiral with the latest tactical reports. Sir, our sensor arrays have identified the last concentration of civilian vessels hiding behind the 4th planet. They appear to be damaged transport ships carrying approximately 2 million refugees. Mostly families with children. Admiral Kekstar smiled a cruel expression that revealed rows of sharp predatory teeth. Excellent, we will make an example of them that the galaxy will never forget. Prepare the plasma bombardment cannons. I want every ship in that group reduced to atoms. Let the survivors on other worlds know what happens to those who oppose the Velkari Empire. The Velkari fleet began to reposition itself for the final devastating attack. Their plasma weapon systems charged with deadly energy that glowed like captured stars, ready to unleash destruction on an unimaginable scale. The refugees trapped behind the planet had no weapons, no shields, and no hope of escape. Captain Young-ho commanded one of the few remaining Council warships, the light cruiser Harmony Voice. His reptilian crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to boost their failing shields and repair their damaged engines. They had been fighting a running battle for 6 hours and their ship was falling apart around them. Sir, reported his tactical officer, we are detecting massive energy buildup from the Velkari fleet. They are preparing to fire on the civilian transports. Our weapons are too weak to stop them, and our shields cannot protect that many ships. Captain Young-ho felt despair wash over him as he realized that he was about to witness the murder of 2 million innocent beings. There was nothing his small ship could do against 3,000 enemy vessels. The Velkari had won, and now they would celebrate their victory by slaughtering helpless refugees. Suddenly, space itself seemed to tear open like fabric being ripped apart. 12 massive quantum signatures appeared at the edge of the system as reality bent and twisted around the arriving vessels. What emerged from the swirling vortexes of hyperspace made even the battle-hardened Velkari crews pause in their preparations for genocide. 12 human dreadnoughts materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with an ominous dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. Each ship stretched over 5 kilometers in length, dwarfing even the largest Velkari battleships. Their surfaces bristled with weapon emplacements that pulsed with barely contained energy. Admiral Kekstar stared at his tactical display in confusion and growing anger. Only 12 ships. The humans dare to send a mere dozen vessels against the might of my 3,000 ship armada. Do they think so little of Velkari power that they insult us with such a pathetic force? His tactical officer Sub-Commander Vexlon double-checked the sensor readings with growing unease. Sir, the energy signatures from those human ships are unlike anything in our military databases. Each vessel appears to be generating power levels equivalent to a small star. I recommend we proceed with caution. Admiral Kekstar laughed harshly, dismissing his subordinate concerns. Caution against 12 ships when we have 3,000. You worry too much about human reputation. They are traitors and diplomats, not warriors. They will learn today what real military power looks like on the bridge of the eternal wrath. Admiral Jinnah calmly surveyed the battlefield before her. The tactical displays showed the Velkari fleet arranged in a perfect sphere around the trapped civilian vessels, their weapons clearly charging for what would be a massacre of unprecedented proportions. Communications. She ordered, patch me through to all vessels in the system, both enemy and allied. I want every ship to receive this transmission. The message cut through every radio frequency in the Kelio system, overriding military encryption and emergency channels. Admiral Jinnah's voice reached every ear in the star system, calm as still water and implacable as the march of time itself. This is Admiral Jinnah of the Terran Alliance Dreadnought Fleet Omega, by authority of the Galactic Defense Accord Section 7, you are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions against civilian vessels and withdraw your forces immediately. This is your only warning. The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds before Admiral Kekstar's voice erupted across the communication channels, filled with mocking laughter and arrogant confidence. 1. Warning, human admiral, you face the assembled might of 3,000 Velkari warships against your pitiful dozen. Your ships are outnumbered 250 to 1. Surrender immediately, and we might allow your crews to live as entertainment in our gladiator pits. On the Council command ship, Ambassador Hyun-woo watched the confrontation with growing horror. He had access to the classified archives about the Scourge Wars. He knew what was about to happen, and he desperately wished he could warn the Velkari to flee while they still had the chance. The human dreadnoughts began to change before everyone's eyes. Their hulls opened like mechanical flowers, revealing weapon arrays that defied every law of physics the galaxy thought it understood. Energy readings spiked beyond the ability of any sensor array to accurately measure all. Council vessels, Admiral Jin voice came through the communication. System again, you now have 30 seconds to move to minimum safe distance. I repeat, 30 seconds to reach the safety perimeter. Any vessel remaining within 50,000 kilometers of human ships after that time does so at their own risk, Captain. Young Ho frantically ordered his helmsman to retreat. Full reverse maximum emergency burn, get us away from those human ships now. Do not question the order, just move. The civilian transport captains needed no encouragement to flee, they had heard the stories whispered in spaceport bars about what happened when humans stopped being diplomatic. Every refugee ship turned and burned their engines to maximum power, desperate to escape the coming storm. Elder Dong Haiyan aboard one of the fleeing Council vessels watched through the observation ports as the human fleet prepared for battle. His crystalline body pulsed with deep red warning colors as memories of the Scourge Wars flooded back the last time he had seen human Dreadnoughts reveal their true weapon systems. Entire star systems had been sterilized. Admiral Kekstar watched the panicked retreat of the Council ships with growing confusion. Why are they running from 12 vessels? He demanded of his tactical staff. Are they so cowardly that they flee at the first sign of resistance? Sub-Commander Vexlon voice carried a note of genuine fear as he reported the sensor readings. Sir, the human ships are undergoing some kind of transformation. Their hull configurations are changing, and power output is increasing exponentially. I strongly recommend we reconsider our position. The Valkyrie Admiral struck his subordinate across the face with enough force to send him sprawling. You dare suggest retreat in the face of 12 enemy ships? I will show these humans what happens when they threaten the Valkyrie Empire. All ships prepare to fire. We will destroy them before they can even target our vessels. But as the human dreadnoughts completed their battle configuration, Admiral Kekstar felt the first stirring of genuine fear in his predatory heart. The 12 ships that had seemed so small and insignificant now loomed like harbingers of doom, their weapon arrays glowing with energy that made his flagship sensors scream. Warnings. Admiral Jin final transmission was delivered in the same calm professional tone she might use to order supplies for her crew. Admiral Kekstar, you have made your choice. All Valkyrie vessels have refused the opportunity to withdraw peacefully. You have chosen to threaten innocent civilians under the protection of the Terran Alliance. She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in across every communication channel in the system. All human vessels, you are cleared to engage. Show them what happens when humanity stops being polite. The space around the Kelios system held its breath as 12 human dreadnoughts prepared to remind the galaxy why their species was feared throughout civilized space. The Valkyrie Empire was about to learn that some lessons could only be taught through overwhelming force and absolute destruction. The first human salvo changed the fundamental laws of physics in the Kelios. System 12 dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, their main guns unleashing concentrated streams of stellar plasma that had been contained in magnetic bottles and accelerated to near light speed. The weapons did not simply shoot energy, they hurled pieces of stars themselves across the void of space. The leading edge of the Valkyrie formation ceased to exist in any meaningful sense. 300 warships, each the size of a city district, vanished in explosions so brilliant that they temporarily overloaded every sensor array within 10 light years. The shock waves from their destruction rippled outward through space, sending smaller vessels tumbling like leaves. In a cosmic hurricane, Admiral Kekstar stared at his tactical display in absolute disbelief. Where moments before he had seen neat rows of his finest ships, now there was only empty space marked by expanding clouds of superheated gas. His mind struggled to process what had just happened. Impossible, he whispered, his voice cracking with the first hints of genuine terror. No weapon in the galaxy could generate that level of destructive power. The energy requirements alone would drain the core of a planet. His communications officer stumbled to his station, his scaled hands shaking as he tried to make sense of the readings pouring in from across the fleet. Sir, we are receiving targeting data transmissions from the human ships, but they are not demands for surrender. They are simply calling out coordinates as if this were some kind of training exercise target. Cluster 77 Alpha range 2 million kilometers firing for effect came. Captain Yunji voice from the Sacred Vengeance her tone was calm and professional, as if she were conducting a routine gunnery drill rather than unleashing weapons that could sterilize worlds. Confirmed. Target, adjusting for fleet. Movement weapons free, responded Captain Minho from the Righteous Fury. The casual nature of their communication made the destruction they were causing seem even more terrifying. The second human volley demonstrated a level of tactical precision that bordered on supernatural instead of another massed bombardment. Each dreadnought selected specific targets with surgical accuracy. 12. Valkyrie command ships, the largest and most heavily armored vessels in their fleet, were marked for immediate destruction, but the humans did not simply fire at these ships. They calculated the exact angle and power needed to ensure that the explosive deaths of these massive vessels would create chain reactions, destroying dozens of additional ships in the resulting plasma storms. Each shot was designed to maximize casualties while minimizing ammunition expenditure. Commander Sungho, watching from his council vessel at the edge of the designated safety zone, felt his reptilian blood freeze in his veins. "They are not just destroying the enemy fleet," he whispered. To his bridge crew, they are using the explosions themselves as secondary weapons. The humans are turning physics into their ally. The Valkyrie Empire most advanced energy shields capable of deflecting asteroid impacts and surviving close encounters, with stellar flares lasted approximately 0.3 seconds against human weapons fire. Their armor plating, forged from the strongest metals known to galactic science, proved as effective as tissue paper against focused stellar plasma. What truly horrified the surviving Valkyrie was not simply the raw destructive power of the human weapons, but the absolute precision with which they wielded that power. Every shot was perfectly calculated, every target chosen for maximum tactical advantage. The humans were not just winning the battle, they were conducting a masterclass in applied violence. Sub-Commander Vexlon, his face pale with shock, managed to stammer out a report to his admiral. "Sir, our fleet formations are completely disrupted. 17 squadrons have been destroyed and the survivors are scattering in panic. Our weapons cannot even target the human ships at this range." Admiral Kekstar watched in growing horror as his carefully planned invasion force disintegrated before his eyes. The tactical display that had shown 3,000 ships in perfect formation now looked like a broken puzzle with vast gaps where entire battle groups had simply vanished. The human fleet began to demonstrate capabilities that seemed to violate every known principle of space combat. Their massive dreadnoughts moved with impossible grace for such enormous vessels, accelerating and changing direction in ways that should have torn them apart. Their quantum drives allowed them to appear and disappear across the battlefield like ghosts made of metal and death. Captain Young Su aboard the Divine Retribution showed the terrifying efficiency of human tactical thinking when he encountered a group of 50 Valkyrie cruisers attempting to escape through a nearby asteroid field. Instead of pursuing them directly, he fired a single, precisely aimed shot at the largest asteroid in the field. The resulting chain reaction turned the entire asteroid belt into a cloud of high-velocity debris traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The Valkyrie vessels found themselves trapped between the expanding wall of deadly fragments and the approaching human dreadnought with no possible means of escape. "How are they moving so fast?" demanded Sub-Commander Vexlon, staring at his display as human ships seemed to teleport across vast distances. "Our intelligence reports indicated their vessels were only marginally faster than our own." What the Valkyrie intelligence had failed to understand was that humans had been deliberately limiting their ships' performance during peacekeeping operations. The quantum drives that powered their dreadnoughts were capable of short-range space-folding effects that allowed them to appear anywhere on a battlefield within seconds. Ambassador So Young, watching from her position at the edge of the battle, transmitted a desperate message to Elder Dong Haiyan. "How long will this massacre continue? Surely the humans will show mercy once the Valkyrie attempt to surrender the ancient crystalline." Sage response chilled her aquatic blood to its core. "Child, the humans are showing mercy. If they truly wanted to end this battle instantly, they would deploy their nova bombs or quantum disruptors. They are taking the time to destroy each ship individually because they want every species in the galaxy to witness exactly what happens to those who harm innocents. Under human protection indeed, Admiral Jinnah was conducting the battle like a symphony of destruction. Each dreadnought played its assigned role with perfect coordination, their combined firepower, creating a demonstration of military superiority that would be studied by tactical experts for generations. The humans were not simply winning a battle, they were sending a message that would echo across every star system in known space. The Valkyrie attempts at return fire proved pathetically inadequate. Their most powerful plasma cannons, the same weapons that had swept aside Council fleets with ease, barely scratched the paint on human armor. The energy shields protecting the dreadnoughts seemed to absorb enemy fire and convert it into additional power for their own weapon. Systems Admiral Kekstar flagship the Dominion Supreme shuddered under a glancing blow from a human destroyer, the smallest class of vessel in their fleet. The impact sent shockwaves through the massive battleship systems, overloading and hull plates buckling under stress that should have been impossible. Sir, our main plasma cannon array has been completely destroyed by a single hit from what appears to be their lightest warship, reported his tactical officer. The damage to our hull integrity is approaching critical levels all around the Kelios system. The story was the same. Valkyrie ships that had seemed invincible hours earlier were being systematically dismantled by human weapons that operated on principles their science could not even begin to understand. The invasion fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds was being reduced to scrap metal and expanding gas clouds. The final, desperate transmission from Admiral Kekstar came exactly 12 minutes after his fleet had opened fire on the human dreadnoughts. His voice, broken by defeat and terror, carried across all communication frequencies. In the system we surrender, he screamed into his transmitter. Please, in the name of all that exists in this universe, we surrender completely. Admiral Jinnah response was delivered in the same calm professional tone she had maintained throughout the entire engagement. Surrender acknowledged, Admiral. All Valkyrie vessels will power down their weapons and engines immediately. Any ship that attempts to flee or continue fighting will be destroyed without further warning. The Battle of Kelios was over. Of the 3,000 Valkyrie warships that had begun the engagement, confident in their numerical superiority, fewer than 200 remained operational. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. They had not even sustained meaningful damage. The aftermath of the battle hung in space like a monument to human military superiority. Debris fields that had once been proud Valkyrie warships drifted slowly through the void, while the few surviving enemy vessels floated powerless with their weapon systems destroyed and their crews in shock. The 12 human dreadnoughts remained in perfect formation, their hulls unmarked by enemy fire. Admiral Jinnah stood on the bridge of the Eternal Wrath, surveying the results of 20 minutes of combat. Her expression remained calm and professional, but everyone around her could sense the weight of command that pressed down upon her shoulders. She had just demonstrated to the galaxy why humanity was feared, and she took no satisfaction in the lesson. Communications Officer Wu Jun approached her station with the final casualty reports. Admiral, we have confirmed the destruction of 2,812 Valkyrie vessels. 188 ships have surrendered and are awaiting instructions. Human casualties are 0 ships lost, 0 personnel injured. The numbers seemed impossible even to those who had witnessed the battle. A fleet of 3,000 enemy warships reduced to less than 200 survivors. Without a single human casualty, it was not simply a military victory, it was a demonstration of technological superiority so overwhelming that it redefined what warfare meant. Captain Minho appeared on the communication screen from the Righteous Fury, his human features showing the strain of command. Admiral, the surviving Valkyrie ships are requesting permission to recover their escape pods and wounded. There are approximately 50,000 survivors floating in space without life support. Admiral Jinnah nodded her approval. Granted, Captain. Coordinate with their medical vessels to ensure all survivors receive appropriate care. We may have destroyed their fleet, but we are not monsters. The wounded deserve treatment regardless of which side they fought for. This display of mercy after such overwhelming force confused many of the alien observers. The humans had just demonstrated the ability to erase entire fleets from existence, yet They were now concerned about enemy wounded, it was. A contradiction that would puzzle xenopsychologists for decades on. The Council command ship Ambassador Hyan Wu struggled to process what he had witnessed. His scaled hands shook as he reviewed the tactical recordings of the battle, the mathematical precision with which the humans had dismantled the Valkyrie fleet was terrifying in its efficiency. Elder Dong Hyan crystalline form pulsed with ancient wisdom as he addressed the other council members. Now you understand why we feared this day. The humans did not simply defeat the Valkyrie Empire, they demonstrated that resistance against them is futile. Any species that witnesses this battle will think twice before threatening worlds under human protection. The refugee transports that had been moments away from destruction began, sending message after message of gratitude to the human fleet. Captain Young Ho, reading the thanks of families who would live to see another sunrise, felt the emotional weight of what his species had just accomplished. Admiral Jinnah opened a communication channel to address all vessels in the system, both enemy and allied. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had just reshaped the balance of galactic power. This engagement is concluded, she announced. The Valkyrie Empire invasion fleet has been neutralized. All civilian vessels are free to continue to safe harbor. All enemy survivors will be treated according to galactic conventions regarding prisoners of war. But her next words carried a warning that would be quoted in diplomatic circles for generations. Any faction that believes they can prey upon innocent civilians while the Terran Alliance exists has learned today how mistaken that belief is. We do not seek conquest, but we will not tolerate the massacre of helpless populations. Admiral Kekstar, aboard his crippled flagship, listened to the human admiral words with the bitter taste of absolute defeat. His empire had spent decades building the fleet that was now reduced to floating wreckage. He had been so confident in his numerical superiority that he had never considered the possibility of total annihilation. The quantum communication array on his bridge still functioned, allowing him to contact the Valkyrie High Command on their distant homeworld. The conversation that followed would reshape his empire political structure forever. High Admiral Zetok appeared on the holographic display, his reptilian features showing confusion at the early report. High Admiral Kekstar, your invasion was scheduled to take several more days. Why are you contacting command so soon? Admiral Kekstar struggled to find words that could convey the magnitude of his defeat. High Admiral, the invasion has failed. The human Terran Alliance intervened with a fleet of 12 ships. They destroyed over 2,800 of our vessels in 20 minutes. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute before High Admiral Zetok responded. Impossible. 12 human ships could not defeat 3,000 of our finest warships. You must be suffering from battle shock or equipment malfunction. Admiral Kekstar transmitted the tactical recordings of the battle and watched as his superior officer face went through a range of emotions from disbelief to horror to absolute terror. The footage showed Valkyrie battleships simply ceasing to exist under the impact of human weapons by the gods of war. High Admiral Zetok whispered, "What manner of weapons do these humans possess? The energy discharges shown in these recordings exceed anything in our scientific understanding." Meanwhile, on Earth, the news of the battle reached the highest levels of the Terran Alliance government. President Sujin received the report in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Her human features showed the mixture of pride and sorrow that came with wielding such devastating power. Defense Minister Tejo entered her office carrying additional intelligence reports. Madam President, the galactic response to our intervention has been immediate. 3 minor empires have already sent diplomatic messages requesting mutual defense treaties. The Zephyrian Republic has offered to open trade negotiations that they had been refusing for decades. President Sujin nodded as she reviewed the diplomatic implications. Every time we are forced to demonstrate our military capabilities, the galaxy remembers why they both need us and fear us. It is a heavy burden to bear. The strategic implications of the Battle of Kelios extended far beyond the immediate defeat of the Valkyrie invasion. Within hours of the engagement, news of the human victory spread through quantum communication networks across civilized space. The message was clear and unmistakable. Humanity remained the ultimate guarantor of galactic peace. Captain Yunji, commanding the Sacred Vengeance, reported to Admiral That several neutral species had already sent observers to study the battle site. They want to understand how we achieved such overwhelming victory with so few ships. She explained the level of interest from military analysts across the galaxy is unprecedented. Admiral considered the long-term consequences of their actions. Today we prevented the massacre of 50 billion innocent beings. Tomorrow we will face the political ramifications of reminding everyone why they fear us. The price of peace is eternal vigilance and sometimes the demonstration of overwhelming force. The Valkyrie High Command transmission came 6 hours after the battle ended. High Admiral Zetok himself appeared on the communication screen, his proud bearing replaced by the humble posture of absolute defeat. Admiral Jinnah, he began, his voice heavy with the weight of his empire's surrender. We request immediate cessation of all military operations and wish to negotiate terms for a permanent peace treaty. Admiral Jinnah response was swift and non-negotiable. The Terran Alliance will accept your surrender under the following conditions. All civilian populations harmed during your expansion will receive full compensation. Your military forces will be reduced to defensive levels only. You will submit to regular inspections by neutral observers to ensure compliance with galactic law. The Valkyrie agreed to every demand without argument. They had learned what the rest of the galaxy already knew, that humanity's greatest weapon was not their dreadnoughts or their devastating technology. It was their absolute, unwavering commitment to protecting innocent life, backed by the power to enforce that commitment against any threat imaginable. The weeks that followed the Battle of Kelios transformed the political landscape of the galaxy in ways that no one had anticipated. The complete destruction of the Valkyrie invasion fleet by 12 human ships sent shockwaves through every government, council chamber, and military headquarters across civilized space. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had reminded the universe why they were both protector and ultimate arbiter of galactic justice. Admiral Jinnah remained in the Kelios system for 7 days after the battle, overseeing the rescue operations and ensuring that every survivor, both enemy and allied, received proper medical attention. Her flagship, the Eternal Wrath, served as a mobile command center coordinating relief efforts for the billions of refugees who had been displaced by the Valkyrie invasion. The human admiral stood in her ready room reviewing reports from across the galaxy when Captain Minho entered with the latest intelligence briefings. Admiral, the diplomatic responses are unprecedented. 47 different species have requested formal meetings with Terran Alliance representatives. 18 minor empires have offered mutual defense treaties. Admiral Jinnah nodded as she studied the flood of diplomatic communications. The galaxy remembers why they need us, Captain, but they also remember why they fear us. It is a delicate balance we must maintain. We cannot be seen as conquerors, but we also cannot allow others to believe we are weak. On the bridge of the council vessel Harmony Light, Captain Young Ho watched the human dreadnoughts preparing for their departure back to Earth. His reptilian crew still spoke in hushed whispers about what they had witnessed. The casual efficiency with which the humans had dismantled the most powerful invasion fleet in recent history had left everyone struggling to understand the true extent of human military capabilities. Elder Dong Hyen addressed the surviving council members through quantum communication. Links from his ship, the crystalline sage ancient form, pulsed with deep blue light as he shared his wisdom with those who would lead the galaxy into an uncertain future. You have all seen what happens when humanity is forced to abandon restraint. He told them the Terran Alliance has spent 50 years deliberately limiting their military responses out of respect for their allies. They have been fighting with training weapons and peacekeeping protocols because they understood that their full capabilities would terrify friend and foe alike. Ambassador So Young, her aquatic form rippling with nervous energy, asked the question that haunted every species representative. How powerful are they really, Elder Dong Hyen? What we witnessed today was that the extent of human military may the ancient being response sent chills through every listener. Child, what you saw today was 12 ships using conventional weapons. The humans possess technologies that they have never deployed. In front of witnesses, they have weapons that can destabilize stars, devices that can fold space itself into weapons and forces that operate beyond our current understanding of physics. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of the human intervention spread through official channels and underground networks alike. The footage of Valkyrie battleships simply vanishing under human weapons fire became the most analyzed military recording in galactic history. Every species with ambitions of conquest suddenly found themselves reconsidering their plans. The Hydros Federation called an emergency session of their ruling council. Ambassador So Young reported directly to the Oceanic Council about what she had witnessed. Her testimony would reshape their entire approach to interstellar relations. Honored counselors, she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. We have been living under the protection of beings whose power we cannot begin to comprehend. The humans have been our guardians for decades, and we never fully understood what that meant until today. Premier Haywan